Hey everyone, before I get started, I just want to remind you that if you like my content, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and then join the Militiaman and Crew Patreon community by clicking the link in the caption. Hey, good afternoon everybody. Happy Sunday. I hope everybody had a wonderful day and are in good spirits. I think we should be. I think there's been a lot of good stuff. I know that you guys have seen some things. We've seen this before. It says here that the MP expects the election of the Parliament Speaker to be decided this week. Well, I'm pretty sure we've heard lots of different things in the coming days, coming soon, this coming next week. They haven't done it over 9 months, I guess it is. But here again, they said this week. This week got started today, as far as I'm concerned, in Iraq. But it says the election of the Speaker of the House of Representatives would be decided during the current week. And he quotes this gentleman, Al-Ziyadi, says that this week there will be more than one session, and there is a possibility in a political and parliamentary determination to decide on the election of the Parliament Speaker. And this matter is very possible, and even if the Sunni political forces do not agree among themselves. So, once again, the other side of the fence, the coordination framework, is looking to have a say in the matter. Okay, just because they say this will get done does not mean that it will get done. But I think the optics and things that are happening around in the background look very suspicious. That seems like a little bit of a reason why they're kind of sandbagging. But anyway, we'll see how it goes. There's another article that says The Economist expects sanctions on Iraq's banks to be eased. And this gentleman, Safwan Qusay, he says that the central bank has contracted with an international company, K2, for the purpose of auditing banks that have restricted access to the dollar in previous periods, so that these banks can learn the mechanism for complying with international requirements. Keep in mind, a lot of banks, not terribly a lot, but quite a few, weren't playing by the rules. And you're going to see evidence of that over time, if you haven't already. So, playing by the rules means with international standards. If you're not in compliance and you're money laundering and you're smuggling and you're doing all these other things, and then you happen to be what they call whales or politicians, that's where the blowback's coming. So some of these articles you're going to see where it's like, are open-ended even. All right, so he goes on to say, he says, everyone's keen on stopping the use of Iraqi banks for the purpose of money laundering. Iraqi private banks are not the owners of the corrupt money, but there are those who, quote, acquire the Iraqi dinar illegally and try to use the banks for purpose of money laundering and smuggling hard currency. So, again, whatever the coming period, with whatever they mean by that, they're in the process of cleaning house. That's how I see it. And what we have been told, if you guys remember from the previous video, is that the Fed will not wait forever, and then they can make a move at the moment's notice, which is fascinating in itself. And you're going to see more on that. And remember that quote, okay? It says, working against the government's orientations, questions directed to Al-Sudani about the excesses of the central bank's management. Look, you guys, this is an interesting article because if you come into Patreon, patreon.com/MMANDCREW, MM and Crew, you're going to find this article. And if you read it, you're going to find out, well, Al-Sudani doesn't answer any of the questions. It's fascinating. But one thing that this guy says is that he's addressing Al-Sudani. He says, I also know that the work of the specialized international companies contracted by the government to reform and make fundamental changes in the work of the government banks to rescue them from the state of backwardness and ruin to a platform of digitization and financial compliance. I've seen some of these changes at the Rapidain Bank, for instance, as well as electronic payments and support for real trade through direct transfers carried out by some private banks and the Trade Bank of Iraq. So that's an interesting thing, because the fact remains is that he goes on and keeps talking about this, and at the end of the day, with all these different questions he's asking, he said, there's like, my view was like, what? No comment by Sudani? So basically this looks to me like someone is not happy about their cash cow getting yanked out from them. Their magic carpet just got grounded. They're not being able to steal money anymore, and they're upset about it. Remember, whales, large financial people, and politicians involved in the banks, they got shut off. They're being vocal about it. Who runs some of the media in Iraq? Well, we know some people that were at the top of the country have have their fingers in the pot when it comes to media. So be careful on what you read. Be careful on who you do. If you read an article that doesn't make too much sense to you, figure out who and what background they have, and you're going to find out if there's any influence outside that could be nefarious. And you'll probably find it's kind of easy to find sometimes. So anyway, are we going to get answers from Sudani on this gentleman's information? The answer was no comment. That's how I see it. Anyway, it's not exactly what al-Sudani said, but hey, he doesn't have to talk to everybody if he doesn't want to. So, and he doesn't, rightfully so, probably. Here's an article called "Legal Violations in the Work of the Central Bank Prompt Demands to Replace the Governor of Al-Ilaq." So you're going to see a theme where now they've been attacking Sudani for not doing things right, and now they're attacking Al-Ilaq for not doing things right. But what's their motivation? They're talking about the parallel market. It's an illegal market. That's all there is to it. It's black market, illegal market. That's a nickname for it. That's not me. It's them. It says, when Ilaq was brought in, the work of the corrupt whales among the politicians became active. So here it's referencing the whales and the politicians became active, okay? They invested in dollars. Now think about it for a minute. If you're invested in dollars and you're heavily weighted, let's say you've got 1 billion of them. Could you imagine having $1 billion worth of dinar and they change the value? Even just dropping the 0007, triple zeros offset what it is today, 1310, 1320, 007633, I think it is. Drop 3 zeros and you have what, 76 cents. That's amazing. You're gonna go, you got to be kidding me, right? And that's right. They're not kidding. And again, these guys are probably upset because they have a feeling that they won't be able to get back all those dinars because they have too many dollars. Something along those lines. We'll see. So it says, when Ilaq was brought in, the work of the corrupt whales among the politicians became effective or active. They invested in dollars, and the private sector was terminated. So that was back in the past. They invested in dollars, the private sector got terminated, while the central bank imposed unnatural complications by launching a campaign against simple shops and kiosks in the market of so forth as Sharjah, Karata, etc., and preventing the sale of electrical and food supplies and even clothing in dollars, and taking pledges from shop owners to prevent dealing in dollars, and punishing them in the event of violation, in procedures that have no legal ceilings for judges. Decision, the central bank violated the constitution of law. Well, I'm pretty sure the central bank is not the one that's violating the constitutional law. That's what these gentlemen are probably trying to paint that picture, because that is actually a confusing paragraph. But the dollar is currently on the rise at a time when there is no official announcement of the central bank about the volume of remittances leaving the country. So Al-Ilaq must be replaced with a professional, non-partisan figure. They're attacking him. Well, in my view, I'm sorry. Okay, the economic expert in this particular piece is basically, as I see it, utter nonsense. We all know that many people at the top are heavy in the dollar. Those that have them, better start seeing the writing on the wall. Who have the dollars better see this writing on the wall and get them converted into dinars if they can even get them at this time, and even in a meaningful way, because you might not be able to buy all that. Say for instance, if you had $100 million and wanted to buy a dinar, you probably might not be able to get it. It might not sell it to you. It will be very suspicious to say that, for instance, someone brings in that million or $1 billion to buy the dinar, and they're going to ask the questions like, well, you're on a politician's wages. Well, where did you get the money? How do you have so much money to buy that much dinar? Right? And when they're going to probably ask us the same questions, where did you get the money to buy these dinar in the future? So be prepared for that. I highly suggest you be prepared for that. All right. Anyway, we'll move on from that. But that theme is that Al-Ilaq's under the gun, and he's in the news a lot today. And here it is, central bank governor, we will give priority financing ready to move in residential complexes. We had an article the other day that talked about specifically that Al-Ilaq has been, since he first came into the Central Bank of Iraq back in 2016, through 2020, he was all for financing and helping the private sector, industrial business, commercial business, all that stuff. He was all for it. They're saying here that now that he's not, and so they're coming at him for him not being. The next question would be is like, well, if he was doing it then, and you're suggesting he's not doing it now, why? Because that's not the case. He hasn't been moved by Sudani out of his position, because Sudani and Al-Awlaq seem to be on the same path. They're on that path for the Development Road project. They're on the same agenda. They're all about that. Al-Awlaq came to Washington, probably had his knickers snipped a little bit because he hadn't done what he said he was going to do. Now you're going to see that they're focusing and they're dominating, talking about specific things from the U.S. Treasury happening to have a floor at the Central Bank of Iraq. A whole floor, okay? All right, so moved on. The governor of the Central Bank of Iraq confirms today priority of financing will be for residential complexes ready for housing. So now he came out today, countered what was out yesterday, or the day before. The governor of the central bank visited the real estate bank and study process. Citizens have delayed loan applications. Al-Awlaq confirmed the priority of financing will be for residential complexes ready for housing. So if you think about it for a minute, Al-Awlaq has a contract with Ernst & Young, and that contract talks about in January of this year that within about 6 months they would have meetings, and we've seen all this stuff, right? But the thing was one of the things that was going to be merged at the end of the day, at the end of this contract with Ernst & Young, for instance, well, one of the final components, they're going to have contract going on for quite a while, but the point is that they have talking about merging banks, Rafidain, two state banks with Rashid, and then so forth, and they had agriculture and they had etc. But at the end of the day, the last one they were going to work on was what? Residential bank, real estate bank. And they were going to, or not residential, but real estate bank with a housing fund. And this is giving an indicator that they could be a little further along than that we fully understand. So I'm saying if the LAC has the merger of the real estate bank with the housing department ready to go now, and if I'm not mistaken, that was to be the final move, like I just mentioned, of all mergers in the central banks with regard to reforms. Maybe the plan was to have them organized and restructured, and when ready, announce them all at once. Speculation on my part, but it makes sense to me. It does. Maybe it'll make sense to you. Let's keep in mind the Minister Parliament was suggesting that Al-Awlaq was all for supporting the private sector, commercial, industrial sectors, and financing. At the time wasn't doing so. If there was a reason that he wasn't in recent time doing so, because he was in the past, is now prepared to do so. That could mean that he's just about ready for a major announcement that Saleh, his advisor, had mentioned back in December of 2023 to expect one this year. So to me, seemingly, we're about to find out. We'll see how that goes. Collecting parliamentary signatures to question the central bank governor of Iraq. So they're still coming at him. So today, Sunday, members of the Finance Committee and the Iraqi Council of Representatives were collecting signatures to question the central bank. So they're going to try and question him, which they probably have a right to do so. It says that we, the members of the Finance Committee listed below, are the signatories for the purpose of hosting the governor of the central bank due to a major flaw in the management of the bank. Therefore, we demand that the governor of the central bank be questioned in the nearest session. Well, that could have been today, but we don't know. In accordance with applicable articles of the Constitution and internal regulations. Again, the nearest session probably could have been sometime today. We'll see. But the major flaw in the central bank is probably to these guys, I'm assuming, is because they're pushing transparency with regard to banks and the selling of the dollar, among other things. Don't forget, we just talked about the whales, and the politicians might be a little bit ticked off because why? Because the auctions, the dollar auctions, they were 250 million, let's call it, real close every day. Now they're like what? 3, 4, 7, 12, 11, 16 today. Excuse me. Anyway, the gravy train basically is dried up for these guys, and obviously there's going to be blowback. And I would have to say that it could be safety concerns for many people. So, hey, the next one, central bank will not reduce the dollar exchange rate now. Well, first off, the dollar trades against a basket of currencies around the world. The central bank governor of Iraq is not going to change the dollar exchange rate on a world market. Okay? They are going to potentially have some influence. So yes, the governor of the central bank, Ali Alak, he's confirming that there will not be a move to reduce the dollar exchange rate at the present time. Okay, I'll just move forward. But the dollar price has stabilized somewhat. It may rise and fall within certain limits. This gentleman, Al Dulami, is suggesting. And he goes on to say that considering that there are other measures that have not been taken. So it says, we will not see currently going to reduce the dollar price, as the governor of the central bank said, considering that there are other measures that have not been taken, as I would say, yet. So there's something that's up Al-Alak's sleeve, which is going to be, could fix things or change things, so be careful. He said that the United States Federal Reserve won't wait forever, and they could move at a moment's notice, and they have a floor at the central bank, and so there's probably some pressure when Al-Alak shows up for work. There's other people there to have a little visit with him here and there. We're going to, see if there's anything going on from that. But ultimately, she warns, this gal here, says the recent security repercussions and the problems between Iran and America have repercussions on some banks and the dollar price. So again, some of the politicians have some reflection, and because they're trading partners and they're political sides, and they've been doing business for a long time. So there's some political aspect for those two countries. And others, don't get me wrong. But anyway, the Ministry of Finance is demanding funding for what? Projects, I'm assuming. And this is one of the reasons for hosting the governor of the central bank today, as there were answers, and answers will be sent soon. So there's questions and answers that will be sent soon, so we'll probably find out about that. And it says today the Parliamentary Finance, today is Sunday, committee hosted the governor of the central bank to follow up on the exchange rate file, the real estate bank initiative, and the auction file, and foreign trade financing. So it sounds like there was a meeting today. So let's see what happens in the news tomorrow. Okay, tonight, late, let's see what happens, our time. If not already, could be out, or they're writing up reports now. Who knows? I'm not sure why an illegal market, in my view, is noteworthy, like they suggest in this article. Will those other measures that we talked about that have been taken a part in is that part of the reason why that they haven't done anything to reduce the dollar exchange rate? Probably, of course. We're going to find out. Applying the delete the zeros project, as far as I'm concerned, is a very key thing, and it will also take a front step to the dollar, because if the dinar becomes greater because of the fact that they dropped the 3 zeros, have a real effective exchange rate applied internationally in compliance with the IMF, etc., you're going to see that those guys are going to have a fit. These whales and these politicians that are heavy in the dollar. By applying the rear, there's not going to be a need for that as far as we know it. Okay, everybody that wants to travel and get medical and education, doing business, have family, whatever, when they travel, they're still going to have to buy the dollar at the proper place and go through the proper platform, right? It's just going to be a little less expensive for them. That's all. There's no difference. So it's not a big issue, but the parallel market is not going to affect the international global exchange rate. It's just not going to do it. And so be careful, because the media is using that to throw 99% of the people out there, even in their own country. I won't say 99%. Most people that are probably fairly acknowledge that was probably way too much of a percentage, but a lot of people. Okay. Central bank governor will not reduce the dollar exchange rate now. It says here that, the repercussions in America. Yeah, we went over this. Sorry, you guys. I think I had duplicate on that. Next one is Al-Alak, our foreign exchange reserves are sufficient to create balance in the market. So here the governor of the central bank, Ali Moshan Alak confirms today, again on Sunday, that maybe this is in response to their acquisition, no, their meetings, their foreign currency reserves are sufficient to create balance in the market. So he's still bullish on what he's got. He says the governor of the central bank provided a full briefing during his hosting of the finance committee on the reasons, the fluctuation of the exchange rate, the mechanism of the electronic platform, and its role in controlling internal and external trade, the housing initiative file, U.S. sanctions on Iraqi banks, and the status of cash reserves of hard currency at the Central Bank of Iraq. So there you have it. He came out, told everybody what he's filled them in. He says that Al-Awlak stated to the statement that our reserves of hard currency is sufficient to create balance in the market, indicating that the central bank sells more than $250 million daily to meet the requirements of foreign trade. So he's meeting the daily requirements, but he's also stating that he's not using the U.S. Treasury to do so. Because why? Because in the past, you guys, we all know that they set up correspondent banks to facilitate that. And those companies that are doing that trade are playing by the rules of international law and international compliance, and would be under the strict restrictions imposed by the United States Treasury and or the U.S. Federal Reserve, and international compliance that is acceptable to all banks that should be around the world that are in compliance. So keep that in mind. Correspondent banks, they facilitate the trade movement. The dollar auction has decreased from 250 million. Why? Because they don't need to. And it probably, why are they doing that? Is because, well, what little is left is insignificant. Just like Soleil had just came out and told us a week or two ago. He says that small percentage is insignificant. It's not a worry. And he's probably not lying. I think it's powerful. Okay. U.S. Treasury takes control of Iraq's central bank to combat money laundering. This article is phenomenal. And this is, again, today. 3 informed sources close to the political and parliamentary decision-making process in Baghdad revealed extremely dangerous information, confirming this is what they're saying is dangerous. It's probably not so dangerous, to be fair. It's because it's dangerous for them. That's probably what it is. Confirming that the U.S. Treasury Department has taken a permanent headquarters in the Central Bank of Iraq building. He says they considered that this step came as a result of great pressures on the Iraqi banking system with the aim of limiting money laundering and dollar smuggling, as the governor of the central bank was forced, he was forced, right, to allocate an entire floor for the U.S. Treasury Departments to monitor money transfers and prevent any illegal activities. Oh, the horror of it, right? So it's funny. I think it's funny is because it's a reality. You've been told that they're going to stop the dollar auctions this year. They already told them that, and everybody just kept, doing the negative media and blitz and blaming, and what do they have? They got the United States Treasury's got a whole floor of the central bank. It's fascinating, you guys. And by the way, we're not 100% sure yet why they just won't tell us why they, people can't get a picture of that bank, or a recent one like yesterday, for instance, or even today. We just haven't seen it. The last one I have was from the most recent that I can tell by what little forensics I'm able to do is February 2024. And there's about 3 floors left, it looks like, that to finish that bank. That article that we just recently had about them having a celebration, maybe this year or maybe early next year, you go, wow, really? So all these things are happening so fast and furious. How far along are they? And why would the U.S. Treasury have a whole floor of a building? Would it not be in Baghdad where Al-Awlak is? Where is that building significantly at the lower levels already completed and moving up to that top level to where that they could already be working in that building? I don't know. But I wouldn't be surprised if they're gearing for a celebration and they publicly admitted it. That could happen at any time. They said this year or early next year. So you just don't quite know. Right on. So anyway, the sources stress that the Iraqi banking sector is suffering from increasing pressures exerted by the U.S. Treasury to prevent the smuggling of dollars, and it continues because of places such as Iran, Russia, and Syria, which are facing economic sanctions. This is coming from them. It's not my views, you guys. It says that the central bank is characterized by randomness and the absence of a clear strategic plan to protect money from smuggling that prompted the U.S. Treasury to impose strict and direct control over the central bank of Iraq. There might be some truth to that statement because it's been happening, but you know what? Al-Awlaq is in a rock and a hard space. He's got to toe the sprocket on both sides of the fence at sometimes, and that's just the way it goes. So anyway, it's not surprising to me that all of these things are coming together at the same time. Basically, it says that the United States continues to exert pressure to ensure that Iraqi banking system is not used to finance illegal activities. Okay, so look, bottom line is central bank being forced to allocate an entire floor for the U.S. Treasury departments to monitor money transfers and prevent any illegal activities, and people call it dangerous. Well, it's dangerous if you're not playing by the rules. That's the problem. Okay, so, and lastly, I'm going to say today, I believe this is going to be, it's all about for the citizens. It says the MPs demand Iraq News to end the assignment of the governor of the central bank, so they're still coming after him. Even the measures taken by the government to try to download dollar prices to 132, 1320, I guess, if you will, to sell it as in a supported manner, did not reach the elimination of speculation in the markets, reducing the price of the dollar in the black market. So it didn't work to kill the black market just yet, but I got a strong feeling since those dollar auctions have gone from 250 million a day down to less than 25 million. I think that, and we can see that consistently for at least over a week or around a week. I think we can see that where their priorities lie. Basically, the people that are writing some of these hit pieces, their priorities lie in their pocketbooks and not the citizens. They're not for the citizens. Where the parliamentary committee, they should be for the citizens. Al-Awlaq and I think Al-Sudani show and prove that they are. I think Taif Sami. I think the Ministerial Council of Economics is that group of people fully have the Iraq populace and people in their crosshairs, in the sense that they want to help those folks. They want to isolate the citizens and take care of them and do the right thing. And I think that's powerful, you guys. So please, thank you very much for your time. And you're coming and see me on Sunday. Please do what I normally ask you to do. Hit that like button and subscribe. And thank you guys for all the donations. Everything counts. We really appreciate it. Zelle, Venmo, PayPal does wonders to keep us up and running. Thank you guys for all that, and we'll see you soon.
Once again, guys, don't forget to hit that like button if you like this content, subscribe to the channel, or join us at the Militia Man and Crew Patreon community for even more exclusive content. You can also donate to this channel by hitting the links in the banner to help keep this page up and running. Your generous support is greatly appreciated, as always. Much, much appreciated. Thank you so much, and have a great day.